Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we talk about high-value hi-fi home theater and headphone equipment. And today, we're talking about the Schiit Saga S. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about why this is probably the best preamp for beginners. If you're not familiar with Schiit, it's pronounced a different way, but that's considered profanity, so I don't say it that way on the channel. This is a preamp. What is a preamp? I've been asked that many times on live streams and in the comments. A preamp is nothing more than a traffic cop that is controlling all of the inputs. We're going to talk about what's on the back later, but fundamentally what a preamp does is switches inputs and it also controls volume. This is different from an integrated amp. What an integrated amp is, fundamentally, in most cases, is a preamp that is integrated or in the same box as a power amplifier. This has no speaker connections, so this isn't going to do anything for anybody. If you are interested in going to separates, i.e. separate DACs, separate phono stage, separate CD player, separate check-in accounts, then you probably want to look at the a preamp. Sorry, my joke got to me. The Saga S. It's $300 too, and also carries with it a 5-year warranty, which is pretty insane. It's made, it's created, designed, and built. It's designed and built in California, which makes me sad because Schiit also has a factory in Texas. Come on, Schiit! Move this down to Texas. Move it all down to Texas. Big thank you for today's sponsor, Keeps. Did you know that 2 out of 3 men, by the time they're 35, have experienced some type of hair loss? I know I have a little bit. Actually, I think I'm pulling the trigger. I think I'm going to get some Keeps in. I'm going to try Keeps on my own scalp because it's easy to try Keeps on your own scalp. You go to the website, keeps.com, you fill out some stuff, and doctors, real hair doctors, review your information, and then they tailor a hair loss program specifically for you and your needs from the comfort of your own home. Not only that, but the active ingredients are generic, so it doesn't cost a lot to start treating your hair. You can stop the hair loss in its tracks with Keeps, and you might even be able to regrow some hair that you have kind of hanging out in here. Maybe it just needs a little bit of fertilizer to get going, some water, and love. Your hair just needs some more love. They also have other stuff too, like thickening shampoo amongst some other products. And I do use thickening shampoo. I'm gonna get some Keeps thickening shampoo. You know, give this a little bit more body on top. You know what else you get with Keeps? 24/7 support. Each treatment plan comes with a year of unlimited messages to your prescribing doctor, physician, so that if you have any questions, they'll help you out and answer your questions. Unlimited. I wish I had unfettered access to my doctors so they could answer questions about all the medicine that I'm on. So whether you're trying to prevent hair loss, stimulate new hair growth, or just get into a hair routine that works for you, Keeps has you covered. Keeps.com/cheapaudioman. You get 50% off your first order. That's Keeps, KEEPS.com/cheapaudioman. Stop the insanity. Stop the hair loss. Keeps.com. Let's take a closer look at this beauty. These are available in a black outer finish or a silver finish. I chose black because I like black. There are 3 buttons on the front. Those buttons control the inputs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This beautiful knob, you guessed it, controls volume. And volume on here is controlled by relays. It produces less distortion and I think crosstalk, something like that. I'm sure smarter people will be able to tell you about that. And then over here you can change between passive, which is no gain on the signal, and you can put a little bit of gain on the signal. Now there is another model called the Saga Plus, maybe? That comes with the tube, but I don't really like tubes. I know, that's heresy, right? I don't like tubes. So I've had the Freya S. Now I have the Saga S. On the top, you have some nice vent holes. On the side, even more ventilation. On the other side, even more ventilation. Make sure everything's cooled down properly. I'm not going to say it quite yet. Solid product, about 9 inches wide. This also matches up perfectly with the Lokius. Lokius is shiny, shiny. But as far as a footprint, these are very stackable. Look at that. It's an EQ and a preamp. What's on the back? On the back, pretty straightforward. Whole bunch of RCAs. So if you're wanting to go balanced, this is not the product for you. There are 5. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 analog inputs. But more importantly, 2 analog outputs. And then, here we go. You got a switch right here. Some people aren't going to like the toggle switch on the back. Personally, I don't care because generally I leave most of my stuff on all the time. Unless it's summer here in Texas because it can heat up cam studios here. When I say studios, I mean it's an office in my house. It can get pretty balmy in here during the summer when I have 45 pieces of hi-fi equipment turned on at the same time. Especially the Class A stuff. Or tube stuff. Did I mention this is $300? $300. If you are into separates, you know that a preamp, regardless of whether or not it has a phono stage or a DAC or anything like that, a preamp for $300 is not very common, if common at all. The preamp that I utilize most of the time is the Akitika PR102. I always get it messed up. It is a kit. I love that preamplifier. It has tone controls on it. It has a whole bunch of inputs. It can output to 2 different amplifiers. It's very convenient. It's single-ended too. It has remote control. Oh, I forgot to mention, if this wasn't already a compelling enough value, you also have a remote control. Change the inputs, change volume, change the amplifier from the comfort of your favorite listening position. Yeah. Metal. Also, magnetic. So, you can stick it on the side of the bars in your jail cell. I don't know. That just came to me. Anyway, if you have anything metallic, that's ferrous, next to your seating area, you can stick the remote control right there. All right, what were we talking about? Oh, the Akitika. So, it's single-ended. It can output to 2 different amplifiers. It has a remote control as well. It's more expensive than the Saga, and also back-ordered by multiple months, if indefinitely. Let's talk about the benefits of a preamp. Separates. I know we live in a world where there tends to be a push towards integrated, one-box solutions. Streamers, amplifiers, everything in one box. When I grew up, things were fundamentally integrated as well. So I would have a receiver, which would include input switching, volume control, oftentimes phono stages. But then you'd have to put a CD player and a tape deck. So things aren't really that different today. But the really fancy people always had separate components. So they had a separate amplifier, a separate preamplifier, and then a CD player, cassette deck, 8-track, reel-to-reel, whatever it was. So integrated amps or receivers are nothing new. Separate components are nothing new. I think both will be around as long as hi-fi is around. So why a preamp? Well, freedom, as William Wallace would say. Freedom! With the mullet, face paint. Freedom. Freedom to choose whatever components you want, i.e. a DAC. Integrate an equalizer, a phono stage, your old CD player, whatever it is you want to integrate. Choose your own amplifier too. Build a system over time instead of switching out different integrated amplifiers. The great thing about separate components is it can grow with you and you get to choose the absolute best component for you. And that's a lot of fun. My favorite DACs are DACs that don't have variable volume control and don't have a remote control. My favorite DACs are the Schiit Modi 3 E plus, whatever it is right now, the Schiit Labs J2, and the Denafreps Aries 2. None of those have variable voltage or volume control. None of those have a remote control. So they don't fit into a lot of people's systems, well, that need remote control. Well, that all ends today, my friends. No, seriously though. That's why a preamp with a remote control is such a great investment, because those DACs, every DAC that I mentioned, really the DACs to be beaten at those respective price points. For under $200, Schiit Modi. For under $1,000, the Schiit Labs J2. And then Denafreps Aries 2 if you want R2R. If you want volume control and a remote control though, you're going to choose something else. Well, now you don't have to. Because even if you're using this with an integrated amp, what you could do is run the DAC into this and this into an analog input if you have an integrated amplifier to begin with. But I don't think we should do that. I mentioned before that this product can grow with you. What I mean by that is if you start off with Schiit Modi, that's $130. You get the Saga, that's $300. Then you get the IEMA A07, $70 or $80. So now you have a separate component system that comes in around $500. Later you can upgrade the op-amp chips in your IEMA A07. You can integrate an EQ with the Loki or the Loki S. You can add a different amp later. You can add a different DAC later. All the while maintaining the same preamp and building around it. Instead of having to save up $1,000 for the latest and greatest integrated amplifier, you can build it piecemeal as you go. And this just isn't for budget equipment. You can A/B different amplifiers and different DACs on this thing. Now, if you're going to A/B different DACs, you want to make sure that they have the same output levels, which incidentally, the Schiit Labs J2, the different versions, the AKM versus the Saber version, have the same output levels, which means I can A/B them with this component. To be fair, I can also A/B them with the Akatika, but again, that's a kit. It's more expensive. For most people, the Saga S is going to be the better choice. And finally, one can A/B amplifiers or have two amplifiers going. If you have one of those great tube amplifiers, you can use this to switch it out. Now, most tube amplifiers have a volume control on there. If you're hooking an amplifier up that has volume control, you would want to set that volume control to a point on the amplifier where you know it's not distorting. And then you would just use the Saga S to control the volume. That's it. Anyway, you could have two amplifiers hooked up. One tube amp, one whatever other kind of amp you want to have. Or if you're considering getting another amplifier, you can hook them both up to this and then you can A/B them. So there's a ton of options with the Saga S. Personally, I like separates. I know that's not for everybody. I know it's not the most convenient thing in the world. I like it. I like the hunt for the perfect component for me. Perfect phono preamp, perfect DAC. Pretty much those two. But it also helps me A/B different components. So it's very useful for my job. Separate components have never been more affordable to get into. And Schiit is doing an incredible job of providing made in the USA products at extremely fair prices and going a bit old school with the EQs and all the separates. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. My favorite system with this is the Schiit Labs J2 going into this going into the Lokius, both by Schiit, and then that going into the Emotiva A1 monoblocks. I called it the Cheap Audio Man American Dream, because they're all American companies. How does it sound? Clean? The Saga S is not coloring the sound at all. Clean. Clean, clean, clean. For me, there's no audible difference between passive and non-passive mode. It's going to pass the signal, so whatever flavor the DAC is and whatever flavor the amp is, that's what you're going to hear. Clean! So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon. We have Zooms, Facebook groups, Discord servers. You can use the links in the description. Those are affiliate links. However, I am not affiliated with Schiit. I will link the Saga S in the description. You can also sign up for Amazon Music or Tidal Music. Links in the description. You can also check my video out on the Vidar, right over here. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen through your new separates component systems utilizing the Schiit Saga S and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.